Oh, this is so strange. This feeling that has come over me, Carano. I don't know. I don't know how to handle it. I almost feel like I'm part of the Boston Globe editorial board. I guess I will be accused of going soft, of selling out, but I am not on the same page as my guys. You know, the usual people that I agree with that take a stand, and generally I'm on that side of the issue. The Matt Walsh and Clay Travis and Charlie Kirks and Turtle Boys of the world. Well, guys, you are wrong. All right, you are wrong. Some of you are just out of your minds and just insanely wrong. Me, I'm with Ayanna Presley. I'm with Deadspin. I'm with Tara Sullivan. I'm with everybody on ESPN. You know, all the usual, all the wokesters. I'm with Jamel Hill today. I think I haven't checked, but I think I'm with Jamel Hill today. It's odd. It's a little uncomfortable. I got to be honest with you,
Yeah,
but
it is.
but I'm I'm sincere. Okay, that's all I can say. I'm sincere on this issue. I will defend Simone Biles, and I will attack and disagree with the people calling her, soft and a choker and selfish and everything else. And I'll explain why. We'll get to all of it. I know you have some of the sound from the people calling her a coward and everything else, but I'm amazed this doesn't happen more often with these gymnasts. I think they are all, when they're done, or even even when they're 24 years old at the peak of their career, after you're talking about a woman, Simone Biles, who has been abused physically, emotionally, sexually for years. It is amazing to me that they all don't have mental breakdowns. And I know if you track them, you'd probably find that they all are in therapy, on medication, at some point in their lives. I mean, you look at this girl. She's this woman. She's 24. She's 4'8". She's gone through hell. I mean, her mother put her up for adoption. She was a drug addict, abused by Larry Nasser, the team doctor who abused, I believe it's upwards of 100 girls, isn't it? Girls. I mean, just one of the most prolific sexual abusers and monsters and evil bastards you'll ever see. I think when you do all this, and then you do this sport, which is amazing, but it is one of the most demanding things. It's a lifestyle. It's not a sport. They don't live their life. They don't have a life. They don't live. They don't eat. They don't laugh. They don't enjoy life. Their growth is stunted. If you've read about the way these world class gymnasts live, they don't reach they don't have puberty. Somehow they skip puberty. As I pointed out on Twitter, they are raised like veal. I mean, they are raised to stay small, to stay in gymnastics shape. You're not supposed to become a woman. You're supposed to stay a girl. You're supposed to stay a little person because they are the best ones at jumping and flipping and vaulting and everything else. And this woman is the best ever. I didn't even realize the racial component. And when I first heard it, I thought it was just made up because everything today has to be about race. But they're literally, and they're not Americans. They're coaches from other countries. I forget which one. They're coaches from Eastern Europe saying that I can look it up. A coach said that his gymnasts should paint themselves black because black people are better at certain events in gymnastics. I'm not sure how much that affected Simone Biles, but it's a factor. I mean, add it all up, and consider the things she does, no one has ever done, and they're really dangerous. So the people who were demanding she suck it up and toughen up and go out there and do it, they weren't asking her to go out there and to play basketball or softball or jump in the pool and swim. They were asking her to do things, to do moves, stunts, which were she could literally break her neck. I mean, she
Yeah,
could
do you
literally
yeah,
she
exactly.
could literally end up paralyzed if she wasn't focused. But they wanted her to suck it up and do it anyway.
Yeah, I think maybe I don't know if you've said this in the past, where golf is maybe takes the most discipline and focus of any sport out there. It's like so hard. Like you got a tons of people watching you. You're the only person, making the shot, and you really have to focus. This is like golf level focus, except you could kill yourself if you screw this
Right.
up.
I'd say it's the most mentally demanding, obviously not physically golf,
Yeah.
but and you can watch in real time as people choke, as the pressure gets to them. Now, if you think what Simone Biles did yesterday when she pulled out of the team competition, or 2 days ago, and her team took silver after she did one move which was remarkably simple, and she didn't do it well, and she said she can't do this. If you think that's choking, well, fine, call it what you want. If you think it's choking, but you can't say she was selfish, because she felt like if she kept going, she was going to screw it all up. Whether she got hurt or not, she was going to hurt her team. Her teammates support her. Again, when you look at, and I didn't know a whole hell of a lot about Simone Biles before this. I knew she was the biggest star, perhaps the greatest American gymnast and the biggest star in Tokyo, and the network was, and NBC was hardest hit. Obviously, they get a little mileage out of this story, but they were counting on her going for whatever it is, 4 or 5 golds. She's won 30 medals in the Olympics and World Championships combined. She's pretty decorated at this point, and hopefully she is ready to walk away. I'm just going to guess, even if she walks away, she's going to have issues in her life. This is not a healthy lifestyle. If you force your child, your daughter or son, I guess for that matter, into this sport, and to make her focus on just this one sport, because she's built for it. She's tiny and she's muscular and she's obsessive over it. If you force your child into this, you're a child abuser. You really are. This is child abuse, what these girls go through. And I know the focus is on Biles, but you could look at any of them on the girls on this team, and they're going through this same grueling process, and it's not healthy. It's not going to help them. I mean, they may end up making money and winning medals, but you can't tell me when they get through it, when they get through the whatever it is, 15 years of living this life, of dealing with this abuse, of not, eating, of not not having a piece of pizza, or not, having a beer. You can't tell me that when you come out on the other side, you're a healthy, well-adjusted woman.
No
You're
way.
not.
It's such a short lifespan. It's you're like, you do this to your mid 20s and then it's over. And then what do you do with the next, 50 years of your life? You're changed forever.
Right. When you peak at that age, you're going to talk about an adult, and even if I don't know if she even can have children, but you're not talking about someone who's going to get married, settle down, have a couple of kids, and live happily ever after. And she's had mental issues. She's talked about her ADHD, and she's had a million physical issues, because they all do. You're dealing with pain and depression and all kinds of things for the rest of your life. Why would a parent, and I realize her mother was a drug addict who put her up for adoption, but why would a parent want their child in to go through this? I guess because they want the glory, they want the medal, they want the money, but you can't expect your child to come out on the other side a happy, well-adjusted adult. It isn't going to happen. And you know what is similar, that's not as physically grueling, is swimming.
Yeah.
These people who are swimming at the world-class level, and I've talked about this before, I've written about it for Sports Illustrated. I covered the swimming and diving at the Atlanta Olympics. They spend literally 8, 10, 12 hours a day in the pool with goggles on, with earplugs. They don't talk, they don't hear, they don't see. They're sensory deprived, and they spend their whole life wrapped up in their own mind. And we all have our moments where we're, questioning ourselves or our place in the universe, but we can communicate, we can see and talk and laugh and smile and do these things. They don't do any of that. I mean, they are looking at the bottom of the pool for 8, 10 hours a day. And I'm not talking about just, high school swimmer or even a college swimmer. I'm talking about an Olympic swimmer. So a lot of them end up with issues. Michael Phelps has talked about it. A lot of them end up with depression. Mark Spitz, who's back doing commercials on Fox for something, He's had well chronicled issues in his life. And I realize, there are rewards to these guys are rich, these guys are famous, but the lifestyles for some Olympic athletes, and Simone Biles is one of the greatest ever, are not uh, they're not healthy. They're not. They're just you're not going to end up a good, well-adjusted, healthy person after you
And
live it. That's why and that's my long-winded explanation of why she's so much different than other, chokers or other people. Clay Travis is comparing her to Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen refused to go in a game famously with 1.8 seconds left. Phil Jackson sending him in, and he didn't call the play for him. So he was pissed and said, I'm not going in. They called it for Tony Kukoc, who hit the shot. I believe he's a rookie, hit the shot, the play worked, and Pippen was labeled, selfish forever. I mean, he still whines about it. A couple of weeks ago, he said Phil Jackson was racist.
right.
Okay, help me out here, Clay Travis. What's the connection between a guy refusing to go in a game because they called the play for someone else and a gymnast who's having a emotional, mental meltdown and says, I can't do this. I can't do this triple flip in the air and risk breaking my neck and costing the team a medal. What's the connection?
I don't remember. I don't remember her exact quote, but she said she lost herself in the air too when she did that first vault. The first vault. She said she lost herself, and
everyone was shocked because it was so simple. It was not one of her
right
complicated tricks.
Imagine that, that seeps in, and you're going to do some sort of death-defying high impact move. Of course, you're going to feel like if that happens again, you can kill yourself, which is different than Scottie Pippen. I mean, what's he going to do? Twist an ankle? Come on.
I mean, he was mad, and obviously that was selfish. Scottie Pippen was mad. Saying I earned the last shot. Well, Phil Jackson's job is to drop a play that will work and win the game, which he did.
Worked.
That makes Pippen look even worse. But everybody that I was talking about, the Charlie Kirks and Matt Walsh's and Turtle Boys. So, what if Tom Brady, quit? And I tweeted about this, and it got a lot of reaction. There's just no comparison. Tom Brady wasn't raised like veal. Tom Brady was not abused, as far as I know. Emotionally, mentally, sexually. He didn't have this insane lifestyle which pushes people to the edge and puts immense pressure on them at a very young age. And Biles, talked about it in the past, and she just reached a breaking point. And apparently the breaking point continues because the big news today is that she's out on the all-around individual, which means we get a whole new round, Matt. We get a whole new round of these Twitter tough guys calling her soft and a choker because she's pulling out, but at least I guess someone else gets to step in. They're not going to be in her class, but she's not going to win a medal in this event where she was expected to win gold. I'm going to guess that kind of makes this legit. She's not quitting. She's legit lost all confidence and doesn't think she can do it. It's kind of sad. And for that, Charlie Kirk calls her a sick sociopath. A sociopath?
There's a number of stuff from Kirk that's Charlie Kirk that just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Charlie Kirk, the guy, if you're not sure who he is, he's the head of Turning Point. He's the guy who kicked Brandy Love out of the conference in Tampa because, he doesn't like what she does for a day job. She went there to cheer on Ron DeSantis and Dan Bongino, but you got to leave because we don't like your lifestyle. That guy was triggered by this Simone Biles announcement or the story yesterday, and I'm generally on the side of these kind of guys that go overboard and call out these soft millennials and these kind of people. It just seems absurd to me, and I'm not making this up. I generally feel bad for this woman. I generally feel like she's been through hell, and this is the culmination of a lifetime of abuse in some form. And I think what she does is draw attention to the way the demands we put on these girls. And by the way, she has said in the past, one of the reasons she continues to compete is to draw attention to the Nasser story and the abuse that all the other girls. I mean, Allie Raceman from in the Boston area, who's a great spokesman, and she lived through the same abuse, and she doesn't compete anymore. Simone Biles still competes, and she still draws attention to the Larry Nasser scandal. So if that's legitimately one of the reasons she's out there trying to, win gold, good for her. She's, I think, if you're going to say that's an excuse, and by the way, I heard some of that too. She's making excuses. I think it's a pretty good excuse. When you're talking about a 24-year-old who's probably been abused in some form for 20 years and who has not been allowed literally to grow into a woman. I don't know how they do it. I guess it's, what they feed them and what they put them through. But these girls they legitimately do not grow up. They remain in this stunted state because that's the best way to perform these stupid tricks, these stupid human tricks. It's sad, and I genuinely feel bad for this woman and the people who go through the things she does. And I cannot believe someone goes out there and calls her a sociopath. Can we listen to a little of Charlie Kirk from Turning Point as he attacks Simone Biles?
Now, she probably could have just competed and just kind of checked the boxes, and they would have got a gold medal. Simone Biles says, this Olympic Games, I wanted to be for myself when I came in, and I felt like I was still doing it for other people, as she cried after the team event on Tuesday. So it like hurts my heart because doing what I love has been kind of taken away from me to please other people. Yeah, that's the point, Simone Biles. You're representing your nation, you're selfish sociopath.
Selfish sociopath.
Yeah.
Simone Biles, who's all her teammates, all the people in the sport, she's getting real support from, Michael Phelps and other
people
athletes,
know.
Osaka. Again, this isn't just, someone just, I condemned or criticized Naomi Osaka, the woman who says, who similarly pulled out of the French Open, lost in the Olympics, got upset because she said she couldn't handle all the attention, didn't like dealing with the media while she's posing, almost naked for the cover of Sports Illustrated, posing for the Vogue cover, putting out a doll, a Naomi Osaka doll, doing interviews with select media people. She's kind of a hypocrite. And that's tennis. I mean, it's just tennis. You don't risk snapping your neck when you go out and play tennis. If you go out and play tennis and you fail, it's too bad. There's a lot of pressure on her. I'm not saying there isn't. She's young and she's and by the way, she's worth $60 million already. That's pretty good, fallback. You could just go back and go home and count your money and pose for your magazines. I don't think there's any comparison. You're not. I know again, there's a lot of pressure on young tennis players, but they don't. I think they're generally allowed to, go through puberty. They're allowed to generally have a piece of pizza once in a while, which is not something that Simone Biles was allowed to do.
No, and Kirk goes off the rails a couple times here. The first one is when he says she should have just checked the box and competed. Once again, that's dumb. I mean, she's putting herself in danger. You can't do that. You'll die. Like you'll crush your neck and die if you do that. He's
you totally embarrass yourself. Maybe then you cost your team a medal. You go out there and you just fall on your face. But she did. She tried. She did one event. She didn't do it well. She shocked everybody because it was a simple thing and she couldn't do it. She tried and failed, and that, I guess, you could say she could have tried again and failed again and cost the team whatever, the silver, but she pulled out because, and they said it was physical initially. She said no, it was a mental health thing, and I understand. Again, I'm surprised this doesn't happen every day with these poor girls, but then what I heard,
like I can't even believe he used that. I can't believe he used that word. Like that does not apply here.
It's like Andrew Cuomo's a sociopath. I mean,
right. People don't care if they kill people. Right.
People who don't care if they kill people. do you want to play some more Kirk so I can try to understand what makes Simone Biles a sociopath?
Today, it's like, you know what? I'm not going to do something stupid and get hurt. It's just not worth it, especially when you have like 3 amazing athletes that can step up to the plate and do it. So you know who has the gold medal? Russia. Russia. I have to go look at these 4'11" Russian Olympians chewing on their gold medals, smirking at the Americans. I'm not okay with that. But honestly, that's where we're headed. We are raising a generation of weak people like Simone Biles. Again, if you want to be, if she got all these mental health problems, don't show up.
Weak.
Simone Biles is weak.
Weak.
Because she couldn't go out there. And there was no athlete. There is no athlete in Tokyo under more pressure. And it is amazing when they come through. And she was compared to Kerry Strug, who went out there and competed on a broken foot and stumbled a little bit, but it was, heroic. Her coach picked her up and hugged her, probably molested her afterwards. It was a big deal. You give her all the credit. She wants to go out there and do it, and did it with the physical pain. But I think you have to understand that Biles lost her confidence. I can't imagine doing any of these stunts, let alone the really difficult ones that Biles does, when you completely lose your self-confidence. That's what Charlie Kirk, who calls her weak,
Weak.
the guy who was triggered because Brandy Love is over there. She's in the third row. She's cheering over there for Dan Bongino. Oh, let's get her out of there. Let's get her out of there. I heard she made adult films. Again, this is a guy, and I like Charlie Kirk. I follow him. I listen to him occasionally. He wholeheartedly supports Donald Trump, like I did. Donald Trump, who's had some issues in his personal life. He's been married 3 times.
Yeah.
He's been accused of banging porn stars. We're all in on that guy. But one of those porn stars, she's not doing porn. She's just she's well dressed and she's enjoying the speeches. Get her out of here. That
you
guy.
You think
Simone Biles weak?
You think Kirk has gone? Charlie Kirk has gone through anything like anywhere near the amount of physical and mental pain, anguish, focus that Simone's gone through in her life? There's no way.
Very few people have, and I love this, that it's a reflection on a generation.
Yeah,
I mean, if you want to say, I don't know, some college kid who's screaming about his teacher or his professor for using the wrong pronouns, yeah, go nuts. That's a sign of the times, and that's a disgrace. This is one of the toughest athletes you will ever find, who's been through hell physically, mentally. I mean, maybe Charlie Kirk is like a lot of people. They haven't exactly, read up on Simone Biles' history, but when he does, he's going to feel silly. The other thing that pissed me off, that was pretty bad. It's calling her weak and a sociopath.
Yeah.
But I heard this from a number of people, and I don't know if Doug Gottlieb, Clay Travis, Matt Walsh were just killing her, and they were saying there's nothing heroic about this. Can I ask you? I've read a fair amount in the last 24 hours. Who said it was heroic? I mean, maybe someone went over maybe someone on NBC, maybe Hoka or whatever her name is, Toba, the host on NBC this morning, the one who talked to Simone Biles. Maybe some of them went over the top and called it heroic. But did anyone really think it was heroic? I just think it was prudent. It was honest. She was honest. She said she's a mess. She lost her confidence to do this difficult stunt, and she pulled out. I'm not calling her a hero. I'm calling her a human. And for most of their lives, these girls are not allowed to be human. And in this moment, Simone Biles said, I'm human. This job is too much for me. I can't go out there and do this. It's kind of sad, but I don't remember too many people calling her heroic.
No, and I think you're right.
Straw man argument, like a lot of this. That's a straw man saying she's not a hero. I didn't say she was a hero. I just said she was a human.
Yeah, I think you're right too. They really latched onto that word. That was their main. I mean, Charlie Kirk just went off the rails, but Gottlieb and Clay Travis, and Matt Walsh, exactly right. They really focused on that word, and I didn't see that much in the media. I thought I saw some compassion, for a woman who's had a lot of pressure on her entire life, physical and mental pressure on her life. I saw that, but I didn't see hero all over the place. I don't
I
know
mean,
what
I've always, well, not always, I've talked about many times in the past the way these girls are raised and
yeah.
how cruel and how twisted this is, and our priorities are all out of whack, and how any parent that wants their child to go through this, that sends them away to camps to work with these creepy coaches and these perverted doctors. And you heard a lot about it in the Larry Nasser trial, where they were, the parents would ship the kids off when they're like 12 to these gulags where they would be raised to do nothing else other than do flips and vaults and jumps. I mean, it's just a little bit sick. But Turtle Boy, who is generally, a pretty aware guy when it comes to mental health, who's had his own issues, he was killing her. I believe. I believe Minahan was going back at Turtle Boy. It was a strange day and a strange divide yesterday when I literally I got uncomfortable when I saw that I was on the same page as
Yeah.
my as my girl Ayana, or on, with Deadspin. I'm saying, really? Am I gotta you know think this through again? And I did, and I felt even more strongly that you're gonna criticize someone who is finally broken, has finally broken, who's been abused, who's had the weight of the world on her shoulders for years. And this moment, I guess, was too big for her. She admitted it. She came clean, said, "No, I'm not physically hurt. I'm just not there mentally." And you're going to call her a sociopath? You're going to call her weak, a
Yeah.
choker? I guess, you can say I'm gone soft, but I can't do that. I can't go there.
Well, the
Uh,
other angle that people were chirping on is it makes America look weak, and I mean Turtle Boy was one of those, but also I heard that from Kirk and some other Charlie Kirk and some other folks, and it was like, why are we collectivizing this? That's not it at all. It makes one person who had an emotional moment stop. That was it. It has nothing to do with America.
and we could talk to Turtle Boy about it tomorrow.
Yeah,
He's just saying how she's, not mentally ill because she held a press conference, and she did, and was, didn't appear to be having a breakdown in her in a press conference, and didn't cry, unlike the Capitol Hill police, who had to deal with trespassers and rioters, and 6 months later they're still crying. We'll get to those embarrassments, but do we have any more of the guys that, my enemies on this day? All these guys, all these right wing bomb tossers, these heartless Neanderthals who were killing Simone Biles. I almost feel like, and people say, "Oh, she's not a child; she's a woman." When I look at her, I still see a child. I still see someone who's never been allowed to reach adulthood. That's the whole problem. There's something sick going on. And again, I don't know how it works, how they keep them so small, and how they don't allow them to grow into women physically, emotionally. But that's what happens. They like them small. If they get too big, if they become women, they can't do the things they want them to do. So these creepy coaches and sicko doctors somehow find a way to keep them, like children, like little girls. They look like little girls. They sound like little girls. You got to check their Wikipedia to make sure they're not 15 years old. And she's not. She's 24. But I still feel like
that's a
I'm
kid.
looking at a child.
Yeah, that's a kid. Yeah, I do have some Clay Travis if you want to hear it.
Simone Biles' story to me is about making quitting not only acceptable, but heroic, praiseworthy, evidence of how brave she is. Simone Biles can quit. She never has to compete again if she doesn't want to. But she quit on her team in the middle of the biggest event that they will have in 5 years. Her performance and or failure to perform may well have cost her team the gold medal. And she brought this pressure onto herself by labeling herself as the GOAT, the greatest of all time, on her unitard or leotard or whatever the heck it's called.
Clay. So I think that's the last part of that's a reasonable argument. If you're going to call yourself the GOAT, and
She has a
I
little
think it's a
goat, and I saw it, and I said,
that's a reasonable argument.
someone gave her that. Someone gave her that. Said, "Here, you're the goat," which she is.
Yeah.
So there's a little tiny goat on her back of her, whatever it is, leotard, and that means when she's having a mental breakdown, she's supposed to go out and do flips and risk breaking her neck because there's a little tiny goat on the back of her shirt. These arguments get dumber. I don't know what else you have to play, but somebody retweeted last night a Clay Travis commentary where he defends Andrew Luck, who quit on his team, and I realized it wasn't the Olympics. But he says, I don't blame anybody for stopping and deciding to recharge. Andrew Luck didn't decide to recharge. He just walked away. Former number 1 pick in the draft, franchise quarterback, just walked away on his team. And I'm no problem. I mean, he just had enough. And football, in many ways, is like this, high level gymnastics where you got to be all in. You can't be, a part timer,
No.
which is why nobody in the NFL ever even thought about bringing in Colin Kaepernick, because you can't be a part-time NFL quarterback. You can't have, other things on your mind. You got to be completely devoted. And Andrew Luck wasn't there, so he walked away, and Clay Travis defended him. That's fine. I defended him too. But here's the bottom line with Simone Biles yesterday in Tokyo. She knew she couldn't do it. She knew she could not do what was being asked of her by the sport, by the coaches, by her teammates. She couldn't do it. That's unfortunate. That's too bad. Everyone was rooting for her. Apparently, she's a very likable, popular athlete, but she knew she couldn't do it, and she just said, "That's it. I can't pull this off. This is not easy. In fact, it's the hardest damn thing any gymnast has ever done. Any female gymnast. She's doing things nobody else could do, blowing away the field. The judges don't even know how to judge her because the things she does are so rare. They're just done by her. And she couldn't do those things. She did some simple stunt. I can get you the name of it, and didn't even do that particularly well, and said, I'm not there. So if she went out and did it, and I'm not saying she breaks her neck, but she just sucks, falls down, flops, chokes. If she just goes out there today, or whatever this all-around individual is, and does some stupid vault or some flip and flops and finishes whatever last, does that make Clay Travis and Charlie Kirk and company, does that make them happy because she went out not physically, not focused, not confident, and flopped? Would that be better? I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to.
You're just disagreeing with your people today. That happens.
I'm struggling with it. I'm struggling with it.
It's almost like
I was thinking of going to Ayanna Presley or AOC for support. Because my girls, we're in this together. Power to my girls. But I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm very uncomfortable.
It's almost as if mature adults can have nuanced views on things and take things topic by topic, except for on, not on partisan lines like Kirk over here and Clay Travis and all them.
Doug Gottlieb. I also felt like, with Turtle Boy wasn't, calling her sociopath or whatever. But I also felt like there was a little bit of people kind of glomming on and, sticking their finger in the air and say, I'd see what Clay Travis said. And then Gottlieb sounded like he was just kind of repeating what Travis said or what Matt Walsh said. And there was people who were trying to affirm their macho status and saying, in my day, we didn't do that. And sometimes, I've been accused of that. But in this case, I don't care how old. I don't care that she's a whatever millennial or whatever. I know what she's been through. I don't know. I understand. I believe what she's been through, what they've all been through. They've been through years of abuse, and we all have our breaking point, and Simone Biles reached hers. We'll see what happens going forward. I think there's 3 more
I
events,
think that's what it is. Yep.
and you know what? It looks like she'll pull out all of them, which will be a sad story. She'll come home, and you know what? She will be treated like a hero for who brings awareness to mental health and all that when the Olympics are over, which will be too bad. You'd rather see her win and then retire and retire at the age of 24. If you think we're done with Simone Biles' mental issues, you're wrong. She's not going to live happily ever after. I do wonder, like, what could she do? Could she just, get married, settle down, become some kind of celebrity spokesman and live happily ever after? Seems unlikely.
I can't imagine. I mean, at least in professional athletes, there's a path for them they could coach or they could go into broadcasting. There's like enough teams, enough infrastructure. And it's, these sports are happening either year round or they're happening at least every year. This is where does she go after this?
She becomes a spokesman for mental health or something. She
Yes.
becomes the poster child for the unhealthy demands we put on certain kids. And I'm telling you, you read about her history, and she's been hurt physically a million times, like they all have. So, she's 15 and she sprains her ankle, and she goes in and the friggin' doctor's diddling her. I mean, how do you expect a kid to ever come out of that healthy and well adjusted? I think at some point you have to say, she couldn't take it anymore. You have to understand. You have to sympathize. That's me. I sympathize with people. I have a heart. I have compassion.
Old softy Gerry Callahan.
But that's what I've been told. I'm weak. I'm a selfish sociopath. I'm weak, and I sympathize and I feel bad for Simone Biles. But this is going to make me feel better, Carano. We are going to move on to the Capitol Hill Police. Yesterday in the January 6th hearing, not really a hearing, it's a political stunt organized by Nancy Pelosi, who I believe Nancy Pelosi or her staff or her people literally wrote the script for these pathetic Capitol Hill policemen. And this is an extremely divisive issue. Every time I tweet about it, you get people bombarded from both sides. A lot of people say, "Oh, you don't support the cops anymore?" No, I don't support these cops. I don't support Michael Fanone. I don't support Harry Dunn. These are crisis actors, and I knew their stories before this hearing, but this hearing was a national embarrassment. From the congressmen, these pathetic congressmen crying, Adam McKinziger, a vet, by the way, and Adam Schiff, a disgusting liar, crying on cue. I mean, this whole thing was uncomfortable to watch because it was so forced, so fabricated, so orchestrated. I think, and a number of people said this yesterday, it has backfired because there was obviously no balance. She kicked off Jim Jordan and Jim Banks. She wouldn't accept them. They would have asked tough questions. There are questions that are off limits. This is not a real hearing looking to get to the truth. This is a political stunt looking to further stigmatize the people, the rioters on January 6th, some of whom were violent, some of whom belong in prison, and some who are being persecuted, including, by the way, Viking Man, the QAnon shaman who hit nobody, who assaulted nobody, who broke nothing, and he's still in solitary confinement. That's apparently okay with people in the Biden regime and supporters of the Biden regime, and these frauds from the Capitol Hill Police Department. And in this day and age, it doesn't take much to expose someone, but 5 minutes after this big load, Harry Dunn, the big guy, went on and on about how this is the worst thing he's ever seen in the history of the country and all that, calling the rioters terrorists. Someone took a look, at his Twitter feed. This is a cop who supported the BLM and Antifa riots last summer, who supported the torching of Kenosha, Wisconsin. A cop supporting BLM, who wants to defund the police, who Antifa, who assault police, on a nightly basis, who tried to blind police with a laser. This is any cop who supports Antifa you have to question them, everything about them. They're not fit to serve. You're literally supporting a Marxist or an anarchist outfit bent on destroying and defunding cops. And you're a cop? You call yourself a cop? And the other guy, Michael Fanone, I don't know how to put this, but anyone whose entire neck is covered with ink, not just a little whatever, a little shamrock or a little something of American flag, his entire neck is covered with ink, and he's got a beard like Jack Dorsey. There's something wrong with this guy. There's something wrong with Michael Fanone, who I don't even think is back at work. He's on. Someone said he looked like he was reading a memorized script, like he'd done it before. And the reason is he's been on CNN literally like 100 times. And he says the same thing, and he gets emotional, and he's wildly political. He's supposed to be a cop, and I realize he took a beating. He got assaulted, but he whines about the trauma and the nightmares and the effects, the long-term effects on him, and he goes right from that to saying, talking about politics and why won't the politicians condemn this, and why won't this congressman do that? And I'm saying your job you're a cop, and you're supposed to protect Congress, that on the Capitol. That's fine. You're a cop. You're not a politician. Last I checked, you're not supposed to be partisan. He's wildly partisan, and I know we don't have this, but I was flipping around last night, and I flipped on Don Lemon when I forget. I don't even know what time Don Lemon's on. There he is again. Michael Fanone is on CNN more than Michael Avenatti was, and he's sitting there, and again he's crying, and he's emotional, he's angry. There's something not right, something out of balance with this guy. They finish the interview. Don Lemon stands up, walks over, says, "I love you, man," and hugs him. And then he says, I love your family. And he starts talking about Michael Fanone's mother and his sister. He's naming them.
Weird.
This is a prop. I hate to break it to you, Michael Fanone. You're all upset because they haven't given you the Medal of Honor. And I always wonder, when they want to give the Capitol Hill Police the Medal of Honor and give them these awards, does that include the ones who opened the doors and let everyone in? Does that cop get the Medal of Honor, or just the ones who got assaulted with Trump flags? But the guy is a regular on CNN. He's being used nightly by the Biden regime and its acolytes in the media, and I think we're going to find out more about him. But he is just scary. To think that he's armed and he's got the power, carries the wields the power he does, is a little concerning.
Well, I don't get as triggered with neck tattoos as you do, my friend.
Again, I'm going to correct you. It's not a neck tattoo. It's an entire neck covered with ink. If you're getting pulled over for running a stop sign, and the cop comes up and he's got a beard like Jack Dorsey and his entire neck, you know what you're going to do? You're going to get nervous. You're going to say, anybody who covers their entire neck, it's like people who get tattoos on their face, or people who have like piercings through their eyebrows or whatever you say. That's not art. That's self-mutilation. Something is wrong with this person.
Well, regardless of that, I mean, you get typically when people have PTSD, they don't want to relive the experience over and over on national TV. I mean,
That's
so I just think you do have something there. I mean, this does not seem like he's not acting like what I would expect a normal human being would act with this type of trauma. I do believe it happened. I watched the body cam stuff today. It does look like a pretty harrowing experience, but if you are feeling like that, to do it on national TV.
I agree. For some of these cops, it was a harrowing experience. It was going on 7 months ago. You're still crying. You're a grown man. You're supposed to be, you're an officer of the law. Have some dignity. And by the way, how harrowing was it for the cops in Kenosha when they burned half the friggin' city? How harrowing was it for the cops in Minneapolis or Seattle or New York, who had bricks and rocks and frozen water bottles thrown at them and lasers shining? How harrowing! Did we spend a lot of time on CNN talking about their trauma? It is amazing. You're talking about hundreds of nights of violent riots, dead, upwards of 30 people murdered by these mobs, $2 billion in property destruction over the course of 6-8 months. And there's no mention of it. We're not allowed to bring that up. It's just about one day at the Capitol where only one person was killed, and that would be Ashley Babbitt, an Air Force veteran, an unarmed protester shot in the throat by who knows who. We're not allowed to find out. But this big cop, Harry Dunn, he tweeted that the response in Kenosha was appropriate. Well, to remind everyone, Kenosha was destroyed, downtown Kenosha, because of Jacob Blake. I believe Jacob Blake, who was resisting arrest, who was armed with a knife, who was shot by the cops before he could get in the car and speed off with kids in the car. And those cops faced no charges because what they did was appropriate. So another cop says the appropriate response to a legal shooting of a violent felon is to burn half the city. And this cop says, yeah, that's good. We're good with that. These people are not fit to serve. And the Democrats want to pin medals on them. And you look at them and you go, there's something wrong with this police force. If this is the face of the Capitol Hill Police, there's something wrong here. These are just political hacks reading a script written for them by Pelosi's staff. But
that's why the corporate media is definitely the enemy of the American people, because if you can't, like, you're exactly right, you're isolating one day, which was a traumatic day for some, but also not violent in other ways, versus all of the death and destruction that happened because of the riots around the country. Like, there's no comparison there, but yet we are focusing on this one event for political reason.
And we're not allowed to bring up other events. I mean, the game is so rigged by Pelosi. You're not allowed to ask, why she didn't bring in more police officers, why they didn't bring in the National Guard, why they did. I got a crazy question that you're not going to be allowed to ask. Why didn't they lock the doors? I'm going to do my Joe Biden imitation. Why didn't they lock the doors? You can't ask that. You can't ask why they didn't lock the doors. I mean, you can't ask how many FBI informants were in the crowd. How many FBI informants led the charge to the Capitol? That's a hell of a relevant question. Everyone would like that answer. You're not allowed to ask it. That's how rigged this game is. She knew Jim Banks would ask these questions. She kicked them off the committee, and they brought this pathetic stooge, Adam Kinzinger, who's weeping, and after the hearing, running up to the cops and hugging them and thanking them. These cops who are working for Pelosi, working for the Biden regime, and this alleged Republican is crying and thanking them and hugging them. And then you have the pathetic Liz Cheney, who is just an embarrassment. And that's all you need to know, that the Republicans on the committee are have no interest in making Pelosi look bad. That's the point we've reached. And it's uncomfortable. It's embarrassing. And I hope it backfired. I hope it was so it was so obvious that it was rigged that I hope the whole thing backfires. But do we have any sound from either Fanone or Harry Dunn?
Yeah, why don't we do some Dunn first? Here it is.
Let's listen to Harry Dunn.
President Trump invited us here. We're here to stop the steal. Joe Biden is not the president. Nobody voted for Joe Biden. I'm a law enforcement officer, and I do my best to keep politics out of my job. But in this circumstance, I responded. Well, I voted for Joe Biden. Does my vote not count? Am I nobody? That prompted a torrent of racial epithets. One woman in a pink MAGA shirt yelled, "You hear that, guys? This nigger voted for Joe Biden." Then the crowd, perhaps around 20 people, joined in screaming, "Boo, fucking nigger."
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Can I just be the first to say I don't believe a word of that, and I'll tell you why. There's 14,000 hours of footage. Everyone, and that's not even including. That I think this I forget the number of hours that we have not seen. If that were on video, we'd have seen it. It would have been one of the first they would have released, because that would really be devastating to the defense of the MAGA crowd that trespassed. Secondly, my mother used to say, if you lie once, no one will ever believe you again. And when I was a kid, I think if I tell a lie that, to mom or dad, they'll never believe me again. This liar, Harry Dunn, said yesterday under oath that Brian Sicknick was murdered by the mob. The cop Brian Sicknick, we know was not. I mean, that's verifiable. He's lying. How he thought he was going to get away with it, I guess, when you're surrounded by people who cheering you on like the Democrats, and your own president lied about it on the world stage, you figure you could do that. But he lied about Brian Sicknick. He clearly has no problem telling a lie when he says he's not political. Again, look at his social media. He's very political. He's a liar. This is a pretty explosive lie. But where's the video? Where's the audio? Where's the proof? Where's this, witnesses, whatever? I mean, there's nothing else. I don't believe you, Harry Dunn. If this happened and it were on video and there's cameras everywhere, we'd have heard about it day one. And again, if you're going to lie to my face about Brian Sicknick, why should I believe anything you say?
I think that's a good point. I think if that video does come up, then it would, again, it would be.
I will apologize.
Right.
Yes. Wrong. But at this point, we're supposed to make a decision. These guys, not political. That's all they were yesterday. They were wildly political. That's why they were there. They were pawns in this political stunt by the most powerful politician probably in the country right now, Nancy Pelosi. It was wildly political. And again, this is a guy who supports BLM, a cop who supports BLM. It's a guy who defended Antifa, a cop. It's just bizarre. But anyway, do we have any from Michael Fanone? Because
yeah, I got him too.
I think Harry Dunn's a liar. I think Michael Fanone is a lunatic. I mean, he just makes me nervous.
What makes the struggle harder and more painful is to know so many of my fellow citizens, including so many of the people I put my life at risk to defend, are downplaying or outright denying what happened. I feel like I went to hell and back to protect them and the people in this room. But too many are now telling me that hell doesn't exist or that hell actually wasn't that bad. The indifference shown to my colleagues is disgraceful.
Yes. Yeah.
My law enforcement career prepared me to cope with some of the aspects of this experience. Being an officer, you know your life is at risk whenever you walk out the door, even if you don't expect otherwise law-abiding citizens to take up arms against you. But nothing, truly nothing, has prepared me to address those elected members of our government who continue to deny the events of that day, and in doing so, betray their oath of office.
There you go.
Pounding the table, great effect. I mean, it was just so staged. It wasn't armed. They didn't have any arms. The only one shot was a protester. As again, we know, she doesn't matter. You're not allowed to ask about her. You're not allowed to ask about the cop who shot her. But I don't think anyone denies what
That's
happened.
the thing.
No
He's changing the narrative.
I
Yeah.
just don't think people who trespassed, who were charged with disorderly conduct, should be kept in solitary confinement for 7 months. Could you ask that? Could you say, do you think that's appropriate, Officer Fanone, for Viking Man to be in solitary confinement for 7 months when Antifa burns cities and don't do a damn day in jail, don't do 10 minutes? And by the way, I've had enough of this, that Trump led this insurrection that inspired. Trump literally said, let's go peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. Now, contrast that with Ayanna Pressley, who said, we need unrest in the streets. We need it, who cheered it on. Contrast that with Kamala Harris, who donated money to bail Antifa scum out of jail. These are people who are inspiring an insurrection. These are people who are supporting violence and unrest in the streets. Trump, you got the sound. We have the speech. He said peacefully and patriotically, period. How you could just know, everyone heard that, everyone knows that, and they lie about it so casually and comfortably. I guess, again, when you have the media supporting them and the Democrat, everyone's saying, go, just lie about sickness. Go ahead and lie. Make up a story about whatever racial slurs you heard. No problem. We'll give you a medal. We'll honor you. We'll give you, a Profile and Courage Award. And they're swept up in this whole, political scheme. It's disturbing. And I don't know who's doing the hiring at the Capitol Hill Police. By the way, Capitol Hill Police budget. I don't know if you heard this. Tucker was talking about this last time. Twice what the city of Atlanta budget is. It's more than the city of Detroit. Their job is to protect that building and 535 Congress people. Their budget is twice the Atlanta Police Department and more than the city of Detroit. That is a boondoggle. That is a hackorama, if ever there was one. And these people, again, I don't even know if Fanone is back at work or he's, still in therapy. But biggest bunch of drama queens watching congressmen cry.
Yes, cry.
They shed a tear for the thousands of businesses were destroyed by Antifa and BLM over the last year. But suddenly they're crying because, a Viking man walked into the Capitol with his face painted and his horns on, and a bunch of MAGA morons, climbed the walls of the Capitol. That made him cry. But anyway, we'll see what happens going forward. And hopefully, people get a up close look. They don't just just casually, skim this story. Look into Harry Dunn, look into Michael Fanone, and you'll realize that they're being used, put it that way. They're being used, they're pawns by Nancy Pelosi. But anyway, let me do a Shea and Air Med Care, and then we'll talk about a quarterback who has played for the Patriots, who is not getting vaccinated, who is refusing to get vaccinated. I told you the story was coming, Carano. I told you the story was coming.
I've been waiting for it.
So have I. But first, I want to talk about Shea Concrete. And let's do Air Med Care, Carano. All right, the story just breaking this morning caught my attention. Patriot quarterback refusing to get vaccinated. Unfortunately, it's not Tom Brady. It's not even Cam Newton or Mac Jones, but Brian Hoyer. This is a true believer, kind of like Cole Beasley. This is a guy who truly believes that he doesn't need the vaccine. He doesn't want the vaccine, that the vaccine is an unfair imposition on him because they're going to cut him. I mean, if you're a backup quarterback and you're fighting for a third string job or maybe a second string job and you don't get the vaccine, it doesn't, and Belichick knows it. It's not that Belichick is like a vaccine fanatic. He's not like some, CNN talking head talking about, mandatory or Andrew Cuomo talking about going door to door and holding people down and giving them the jab. He's a football coach. And this player, if he doesn't get the vaccine, there's rules, and these rules are a distraction. He has to attend meetings if he's not vaccinated by Zoom. So
Right.
You're going to have three quarterbacks in the room, Stidham and Jones and Newton, quarterback coach in their little conference room, and then you're going to have like a computer laptop over here because Hoyer is down the hall in a room by himself, and he's going to be on Zoom. He has to wear a mask on the sideline or on the bus or in the locker room. I don't know if he has to wear it in the shower. He can't leave his hotel room. There's all these rules, and if you violate them, you get fined $14,000. We talked about it yesterday. That means there will be some unvaccinated players. I really believe that. And those players have special rules. But those players can't be scrubs. They can't be special teamers. They can't be third string quarterbacks. Because in the NFL, we've seen it many coaches don't want to deal with it. They don't want distractions. They don't want, the special rules for different players unless it's a starter or a star. The only time this is going to matter is when a star, and maybe it'll be DeAndre Hopkins or maybe it'll be Tom, Edward, Patrick Brady. But it's not going to be Brian Hoyer. If
No,
doesn't
he
get
does not have the juice to like move the needle on this. I mean, he's just going to get cut.
right, and I don't know how soon that happens. If they have to have these rules now in camp, like they have to have this laptop set up, and he has to be standing over there, and where they're over here, and if they go on a bus, he has to be on a different bus, and they're going to say, Brian, I respect your, for standing your ground, but we're moving on. We'll find some other third string quarterback. We have 3 quarterbacks right here, and they all got vaccinated. So I don't think, as you said, a guy like this moves the needle. I don't think he makes a difference. But if there's right now, there's whatever it is, 4, 5, 6, 7 prominent guys not getting vaccinated. That number goes to, I don't know, 100 if Tom Brady steps up and says, I'm not doing it.
Yep. They
And
fall.
I think Hopkins makes a difference too, because he's a superstar, and there's a lot of guys who look up to him and say, well, if he's not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. Let's be honest. There's going to be guys who genuinely, sincerely say, I don't want that thing jabbed in me. I'm worried what that will do to me. I read a story, the Biden administration and their servants in big tech haven't deleted everything. So there's going to be a story out there where someone says, I think it might affect my heart. I don't think, or I already had the virus, so I have the antibodies. I don't need the vaccine. Perfectly reasonable. That's not good enough, apparently, for the NFL. It's not good enough for a lot of institutions in this country, schools and businesses who are forcing people who have the antibodies, who have better immunity than the vaccine provides already. But this has become this great divide. Vaccine people insisting everybody comply. And now it's mask people and vaccine people insisting everybody comply. Have never been more divided as a nation, and this exacerbates it like nothing else. If you don't comply, if you dare whatever go in the store without, or go to the school without a mask, you are a heretic, you're a heathen, and they're going to ostracize you, and they're going to make you, ride on a different bus and sit in a different room and stay in your hotel and all that. It's coming. It's just not coming with Brian Hoyer. Brian Hoyer is not the one.
Belichick would just cut him just to simply not have to answer the question about Brian Hoyer not getting the vaccine at media days. Like
he already cut a coach. He already cut a coach who wouldn't get the vaccine, and a flunky coach, not an important coach. He's going to cut Hoyer or whatever. I mean, some other guy steps forward and says, "I'm not doing it." It better be, it better be Gilmore. It better be somebody good, because if it's not, they're gone. And I assume other coaches, even if they don't think the vaccine is necessary for someone who's already had COVID or someone young and healthy, they're football coaches. They try to limit distractions. That's what they do. They try to focus, get everyone focused. And these guys who are taking a stand, like Cole Beasley or Leonard Fournette, they're a distraction, and they want them to get vaccinated or just shut up. Just shut up and do what we tell you. Wear the mask. Sit over there. If anyone's going to be, this anti-vax kind of spokesman, there's no coach that wants that in their locker room. No coach. But we'll see how that plays out with Brian Hoyer. And maybe one of these friggin' days, the Tampa Bay guys who have promised me, at least one of them, that they're going to ask Brady, we'll get access to Brady, and we'll find out what the other former Patriot quarterback has to say about getting the shot. That's coming. I know I keep hyping it, but that day is coming. Hopefully very soon. But that'll do it for today. Thank you to DCU and Shea Concrete and Allied Paving and Airman Care. And thanks to you, Carano. Anything I miss here? Anything important?
No, I think you got everything we were going for today.
Got everything. We're going to keep track of these stories because Simone Biles is still in Tokyo, and she's still struggling with these issues, and she has a few more events. She may wouldn't it be great though if she does come back and performs and wins the gold? That'd be a great story. I mean, and overcomes this issue. This sociopath, this choker, this selfish millennial. If she can overcome this issue and win, that'll be a great story. I'd even watch that. I would even watch that if she comes back. But we shall see. All right, I'm Gerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Podcast, and we will do it again tomorrow.